All right, so welcome back to our live stream today. We are going to dive into the metaverse and some of the low cap gaming gems that we've been reporting on here for some time and really give you guys an update of where some of these projects are rolling and also some new entries in the list today. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. As we get started, this of course is brought to you by FTX.us. If you've not had a chance to check them out, make sure and visit FTX US. It is, I think their mobile app is probably one of the coolest features that they have within this when you look at crypto trading in general, also the number of tokens and projects that you can track on here. Lots of trading features. This is one of those projects that was built by traders for traders. But something that really sticks out for me is the whole approach toward NFTs. And this is something that we're starting to see more and more of, especially when you look at incorporating this into your trading platform. So as you guys are looking at, or maybe looking at trying to expand your trading economy, this starts to really kind of build up an opportunity to use both crypto trading and then also NFTs all in one platform. Make sure and hit our link below for more information on FTX US. Of course, always remember you can join in really easily. Let's get into the topics today, and I want to jump on to a couple of things that we'll review as kind of where the gaming industry is moving, but also into the projects that are starting to move around. One thing that I've noticed within our CPI, which is our Crypto Power Index, is because there's so many new projects coming onto the scene, and also projects that maybe they've been around for a little bit, but they're starting to mature. And because they're maturing, they're getting larger audiences in social. Social, of course, drives awareness. Awareness starts to drive price action, and hence this is how the thing starts to hit. First story I wanted to jump into is NFT-based blockchain games that could soar in 2022. This is just a list coming over from, of course, Cointelegraph. And there's a few in here that you'll recognize. DeFi Kingdoms. And many of these, again, we're not saying, hey, you should go invest in these. Remember that any of these low cap gems, all of these are going to be very risky, but also potential opportunities. Now, what I've done is, and I'll explain to you which ones I've invested in, but what I've done is I'll put a little bit in different projects in my high risk portfolio, and then I'll let those run for a little bit. I'll, of course, monitor those out. But DeFi Kingdoms is a good example of one. Some others here, Guild of Guardians, we've talked about them on the show before. And then right here, Galaxy Fight Club has been showing up again in the play to earn tracking that is started to really kind of break out. So a lot of new games coming onto the scene, but also, as I said, some of the older games that are starting to move in terms of activity. This is another thing that's happening, and that is that we're starting to see a lot more money being raised around this. And this one's interesting to me because it's a play-to-earn game that's raising $4 million from Ubisoft, Overwolf, and then Makers Fund. Now, because this has Ubisoft in it, it starts to connect the dots of what I've talked about often, and that is when we will see AAA and traditional gaming start to merge into play-to-earn and really move in that direction. And I think it's going to happen in a lot of deals like what you see here with Rebelbots, is that it's going to be projects that they're doing either acqui-hires on, whether it's someone like a Ubisoft or what, we broke the news yesterday on what's happening with Microsoft, Xbox, and of course their acquisition of Blizzard. There's a lot happening in that space, and I think as we see more and more money pouring in, especially from mainstream gaming, the likelihood is play-to-earn will make its way quickly into that trajectory. So I think that's a big one to watch. Another one, this is some additional projects. If you guys have not checked this one out, Vulcan Forge is one I really like, UFO Gaming. These are the typicals. Citrus, we have not done a deep dive on that, and then Metric Circle we have before, and then Avagachi, we've done a little bit of a dive on that one as well. This is just another list out there that continues to, I think, really kind of expose the markets as to how many games there are, but also how many good games are starting to evolve. So lots happening there. Now, the way we'll do a breakout for you today is we're going to show you the top 20. These are, of course, sentiment rankings, and many times in our sentiment rankings, they'll align with what we call price action. Price action is usually over a trajectory, and in some cases, we'll do an analysis, which we're probably going to break down some of these individual projects in some additional videos on this, but this will give you kind of your homework, so to speak, around what games you should maybe start to go out and look at. Make sure and put your comments and your questions in the chat. And of course, remember, when we're doing these are market movers. The concept when we pull this kind of data for you is pretty simple. It's designed to help you go get your research done, help you move into maybe a new area of understanding cryptocurrency, play to earn, etc., NFTs, but not financial advice. Best thing to do is use this as your stepping stone into something that you want to get into. One of the first projects that I want to break into is Bomb Crypto. And Bomb Crypto has been on our list before, and I'm not going in any particular order, but Bomb Crypto on our list before. Again, if you have not looked at this one, the interesting thing behind Bomb Crypto is they continue to really grow at a pretty rapid pace on Twitter. And just in general, I think with the overall ecosystem of community, which is a big part of gaming. So this is one we're watching very closely. Bomb Crypto, this is their website. If you have not had a chance to, they've actually done a pretty good update on their website. So nice job with the Bomb Crypto team. Another one that I want to jump into is League of Kingdoms. Now, League of Kingdoms is not out yet. This particular project, if you've not had a chance to look at this one, this again is one of those that is a very early start, brand new on the list, and it has not been on our top 20 before. So this one right here, I'm really interested in watching this as it starts to grow and we start to see more activity coming from League of Kingdoms as it starts to roll out. Additionally, I want to jump over to Ternoa. Ternoa is one that, again, has been on our list before, highly ranked, and it's, of course, performing right now. The chart, you can kind of see where it's been. Just in the last one day, we've seen a pretty big movement right here from 7 up to a little over 8. I want to just look at the 1 month on this. This is where the recovery has kind of occurred. So this was the bottom, but if you look at where it has been over the last 30 days, almost at 10 cents. And if you go out here to the 3 month, you see the highs really floating up in here. So this gets back into the strategy of how I go about looking at these projects is once that a big pump has occurred and I start to see that, that lower scenario where we see a lot of flush out of that, that is usually the perfect opportunity for either an entry, especially if you like the game or like the project. It's either an opportunity for an entry and or it's a scenario where you can start to accumulate if you maybe already are holding something like that. I know we have a poll in here, so I want to go to the results of the poll. And this was pretty simple. Just what are you interested in more investing in? And of course, this is the video you stopped in on is the right one, which is low cap gems, 73% top tier. Established games, 20%, and then 6% not interested. So clearly we've got a big audience on low cap and NFTs today, so we'll definitely dive into some of those. Another project that, well, let me kind of further in on Ternoa, because Ternoa is another one that has done a pretty good job on building community. They're now at 104,000. Last time I think we checked them, it was like 80,000, so they've grown pretty significant. And then if you've not had a chance to check, this is a blockchain of augmented NFTs. So this, of course, being an NFT and gaming list. But augmented NFTs, just where it's getting a little bit more functional. And I do think that we'll probably start to see some potential of utility use cases with Ternoa. This could be an interesting project to continue to watch. One that was new to the list this month, or this report, was Metabots. Metabots is, again, one that's getting ready to launch. You do have the capacity to go in and buy it and stake it right now. There is some gameplay out on this one as well. I want to kind of run over here and we'll just show you guys a little bit of gameplay of what's happening here. And let me kind of mute that so you guys don't get too much of that. But what you've seen, and I think one thing that I'm interested in is the fact that we've seen so much growth in these games in terms of development, graphics, and what this attributes to, I think, is the developers and the artists that are starting to move to play to earn. This is the kind of stuff that I think we've, in the past, have only seen in AAA gaming, and now we're starting to see a lot more of this coming out in kind of these emerging opportunity games like a Metabot. So lots happening there. Definitely one that has made the list. And of course, if you want to go in and buy, just go to their website. It's metabots.io. There is a process on how to go in set up your MetaMask and or your Trust wallet, and you can go in and go that route if you like to go that route. Another one that made the list is Phantom Galaxies. Again, this is taking a page out of, say, the Big Time book, which is mainly building an ecosystem within the game itself. So the investments are not the token, but actually the game assets. So you'll see more and more of Phantom Galaxies, I think, as we go, because there's going to be a lot of news and I think a lot of movement around this one. I want to see about this trailer because this is one that one of our guys in the crypto pit was talking about the other day. I'm going to go to zoom out on this one. Again, back to the graphics, that we've seen so much improvement just in a very short period of time, especially around as we grow these development teams. I think that's a big factor that is going to make these projects continue to really excel. And also, I think the other thing that is going to play into this is the fact that for real adoption to occur, we're going to need these kind of things. This one right here, though, I'm just saying, looks a lot like Optimus Prime. There might be a scenario coming down the scenarios soon. All right, so others that I want to talk about is we had one of the gaming companies reach out to us, a project called Mouse Hunt. They reached out to us and asked us to do a review quickly. And what we did was we did just a quick rundown. We also did an analysis on the ecosystem of what they're up to, which is kind of interesting. There's a lot happening with them. They've got a new booster that essentially is built into their economy and how they're going about the process of selling in Mouse Hunt. So it's, again, this is one of those projects that was launched on Cetify. I think they broke a record like in a sellout in like 18 seconds or something. But anyway, those are the kind of things that I look for in early projects because those kinds of things are big in a way of performance. They also had finalists of DreamHack Atlanta, and then they had their last legendary booster, which is the booster sale that they're doing now or getting ready to, that sold out in like 6 minutes. And then they had this new component, which is their first sale, and they have this thing called a sweep widget. And I wanted to pull this up because it's an interesting way to go about finding these. Let me see if I can find that tab. Yeah, there we go. This is their sweep widget. I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can understand if you did want to go in and do something with Mouse Hunt, this is a way to do it. And essentially it gives you an onboarding function for jumping into it. And of course it has some elements that you have to go in through in terms of Twitter following, retweet a tweet, follow back on Facebook. So there's some tasks involved in this process to get in on this particular whitelist event. So it's kind of an interesting component. And I want to jump to the charts because this is where we're going to get into both the rankings and then also do a quick review of Mouse Hunt just so you guys can kind of see what we've shown here on Mouse Hunt. Breaking down our top 10, this is our top 20. Again, coming over from the Crypto Power Index, our CPI, we score based on sentiment. So sentiment a lot of times will have a very big impact on how trajectories are going, especially around amplification. Sentiment and amplification is unique to our data set, but it's what we're measuring because it usually has so much relationship to how pricing starts to play into it. But you can see Bomb Crypto there because it comes in at number 1, 79.68. Ternoa was right there nesting in at number 2. And then League of Kingdoms right there. And then Metabots comes in at 78.29. Phantom Galaxies, both of those were new to our list, or at least our top 10 list in this round. And this, of course, is our release 2 of our tracking for this year. And then Gods Unchained also made it back on the list. Townstar moved up in the list. GameStarter fell a little bit, but maintained a top 10. And then NFT Worlds also made it into the top 10. One of the new ones was a project called Cruxiva. And this one was brand new. And for it to make it into the top 10, I think it's just because we've seen so much juice on this one in terms of social sentiment, what has been happening out there in the communities, both on Discord and Telegram, etc., that really kind of help some of these games when they first break on to become in the top 20. So I watch those very closely because sometimes those can be overhyped. The next 10 is one that I'm very interested in. That is Pegaxi. Pegaxi is one that we've continued to look at just in general. We like it here in the crypto pit, but additionally, just what they're doing around the whole ecosystem. If you've been following D-Race or you look at Zrun, those are 2 projects that have a lot of similarities and Pegaxi really flying up the charts right now. So very interesting to me. Place War, this has been one of the projects that's pretty much held in the top 20 for the last several months as we've done these. We know Myrtle over there, we've had her on the show a couple of times, their CEO. Very interesting project, and they are getting ready to release their land sale, which I think will probably cause Place Wars to move around some on this list, but 7605. Then you have D Horizon, 7602. Sin City's getting ready to launch on Cetify. You've got Black Eye Galaxy, who has been an interesting project because this is a project I made a ton of money on this back in the fall in my high-risk portfolio, and it's starting to show signs of life again. Chain Games coming in, Monstera, Battle Hero, Metagear, and then Bit Hotel making in our top 20. And as I promised you, the example here of some of the other things here, I wanted to show you our previous top 10. Thetan Arena was there, and then Place War was our number 2, and this was about 3 weeks ago. My Neighbor Alice had made it into Dark Frontiers, Metagear, and then Monkey Ball. We've seen a lot of these. Now, what we've done with these in difference for this version of our ranking is we started to put some limits on the market caps for these to keep them in the low cap gems category. So some of those in our previous rankings had higher caps, and once you pull those out, like a My Neighbor Alice, once you pull those out, we'll probably do a high cap project analysis too, to do a top 20 there as well. But over to Mouse Hunt, this is one thing that I wanted to look at on this one, and that was where were they holding on sentiment. So we laid in the December and the January sentiment and amplification. Now their sentiment has been moving a little bit, 7208 and a 7399, and then a 6855 on their amplification, which was a little bit low in December, but has moved up. I have a feeling this is probably because of the activity that this project is doing. So good for them. I think that's a cool thing. I want to get to some of the questions today because I know you guys are going to probably ask about a lot of projects that are in that or not, maybe not in the list. And remember, the CPI right now, we're scoring hundreds and hundreds of projects on an ongoing basis. So these are a lot of moving parts, projects in, projects out. Once that a market cap hits a certain level, sometimes we'll jettison that particular project to a different list and start tracking it in a different way. So we do have some cool things happening over on the Diamond Circle around the CPI. So if you're not involved in our Diamond Circle, make sure and join because it is an awesome way for you guys to kind of get these updates and additional sentiment data as we start to release more and more of this information. We do it in altcoins, DeFi, obviously the low cap gems, like what you're seeing here with the gaming side for Meta. And then we go into Bitcoin and the traditionals and of course the layer ones. Let's get into some of the questions here. Divine Comedy, I know you like the wars, Meta Wars. I've been in and out of that one. You know, I had some Meta Wars stolen from me out of a MetaMask account. Yeah, that happened. That really happened. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate all that you're doing there. Oh, this is Jai Turner. Okay, all right, founder of Harambe Protocol. Yeah, excellent, man. Great to see. Oh, you've partnered with Red Fox and Place War. I like it. I like that. We get news in the super chats now. This is even more fun. All right, let's go to Isaac. Hey, Paul. When I'm looking into a cryptogram, what should I look for there under tokenomics? All right, tokenomics a lot. I'll just be honest with you. In many cases, tokenomics do not make sense with these projects. What you have to look for in any of these is going back to fundamentals, like you do in some of the innovative technology that we see even over in the stock market. And that is, you always look at the team, then you look at the community, then I start breaking down into the graphics and instead of the tokenomics, the economics of the game or the NFTs. So how does it work? How do you make money in it if it's play to earn? How does the economics work from an NFT standpoint? Once you break those things down, it'll give you a lot better layout. Then tweet us at Paul Barron or at Paul Barron TV. Put the project in there and say, hey, what's the sentiment on this? If we can get the sentiment data for you, we'll present it in a show just like this. Hopefully that will help you out. All right, let's move on. Crypto Gamer Mouse Hunt is very similar to Soul Chicks. I think we'll see different scenarios there, but that's a good point. Thoughts on C-War mobile gaming play should be big. I would agree with you, Strictly Sports, on this. I think that we will see a lot of movement in the mobile gaming space. And with mobile games, it's all going to depend on how sticky that game is. And what I mean by that is there are certain aspects, this is where it gets very critical on the team. There's certain aspects of building games like this that have to be sticky, meaning the user, the player, has to be able to really, not only want to continue to play the game, it kind of has that addictive nature. That's why, AAA gaming and also some of the mainstream gaming has done so well. Even if they're not AAA graphics, sometimes they just have really good stickiness. And I just always think about, stupid games like Angry Birds that just were those kinds of mobile games that just absolutely blew up. So very interesting stuff. All right, Diverge Fitness, let's go about Chumby Valley. Okay, that's a good one. I remember you added in our PDF of top 10 games in the past. Yes, Chumby Valley has been in our NFT listing. That's what I mean is when we do an NFT ranking, in fact, you can probably go check that video. We'll do NFT rankings, and if it's all pure NFTs, then in some cases we'll pull those out and push it over into a different category and re-rank it. So it may not be in the same list ranking with, say, play-to-earn games or games that have NFT ecosystems. So something to be thinking about that. Thanks for the super chat, Daniel. Love it, love it, love it. And then how do you feel about GameStarter? GameStarter is still in our top 20, as we showed you there. GameStarter, I think, is still one of those projects. Remember, GameStarter does a lot with projects like Dark Frontiers, etc. There's a lot of these studios that are starting to roll out into some very cool functions of being able to, one, find talent, two, understand how games can be incorporated into different games that can really start to create kind of a library of sort. And I think GameStarter is one of those that really has an opportunity to do that. All right. Ship for Crypto, Zilliqa. When is Metabots coming? We did a video on that. We had their lead, I think it was the BizDev team, that really talked about their launch. And I think it's this month. We are seeing, or they promised, that we would see the launch of Metabots in January. So good stuff. All right, Jason Stillman, Cornucopias, seen it on our list. It's definitely has shown up in our top rankings. This ship never made it into our top 20. So again, these things move around a lot. Decimated right here with Rapungus. All of these games look okay, but I'm waiting on Decimated. Decimated was in our list, in one of our lists that we did in our Gaming Gems, the last video, and Decimated had made it in, but they pulled out. Again, remember, when you've got so many of these new projects starting to release, the communities will start to ramp up, and it causes that sentiment number to start to shift, which also causes the price start to shift. So be thinking about all those things. All right, lots of game stuff coming in. Major Snuffy coming in. Apple and Google Play will need to make a crypto game purchase easy to do first. Yes. Okay, so if Apple and Google Play get into this, trust me, we are going to see an absolute blitzkrieg of game companies moving to play to earn, and also new development in blockchain. The problem that all of this represents in the gaming community and what we're seeing in play to earn right now is very simple. There's not enough developers, and that's a problem right now for growth. That's why it's so competitive, and that's why we're seeing a lot of teams that are struggling with their game. They'll get something out and then they can't expand upon it because the development team is just not ready to level up. That's something that can happen to projects. So as I said, remember, trust in the team. Always invest in the team. It's Silicon Valley. I've been investing in small startups for years. Always invest in those founders, because those usually are the ones that lead it out and will be able to find the talent to get you to the next level. So big one. PYR seems to be a good entry point right now. That's Vulcan Forge. Again, this one, Vulcan Forge being more of a high cap. So I do own Vulcan Forge. And just to be fully transparent here, guys, the ones that I own in this list of the top 20 are, let's see here, Tanoa. I'm a holder of that one. Of course, GameStarter. I also have Phantom Galaxy. And then in the next 20, I have Place War. I'm going to buy some Pegaxi. I'm going to get Sin City. And what else do I have? That's it. That's it. So just to give you an idea of where I am. And I did buy some Mouse On, just to kind of see, because they have a lot of new stuff coming out. So big one. Ankit Gupta, what do you think about Aurora? Good investment or not? Okay, so Aurora has been on our high cap, or higher value, I should say, definitely not in these low cap projects. But Aurora, I think, again, is one of those projects that has a sound base and a good team. So depending on if you like the overall project, it's not one that I would shy away from. I've actually had Aurora before, but I did sell it. So just be aware. I played Phantom Galaxies beta, super awesome. One of our guys downloaded the beta on Phantom Galaxy, and I was blown away by just the graphics of it. So, and he gave me the thumbs up, and he's pretty discerning about these kind of games. So if he gives me the thumbs up, I'm leaning into that one a little bit more. All right, a good time to buy Thetan. Seems like a solid entry point after a serious continuing dip, or has their community lost all faith and it's done for? This one I want to do a deep dive on because I was very surprised to see Thetan fall out of the top 20. That they're not in the top 20. They were number 1 in some of our categories for 6-8 weeks. We saw them in the top 3, 4, 5 positions of sentiment. And I think, to your point, has there been something that's happened in that community? I want to dive a little deeper into Thetan Arena because something is going on over there and I do not know what it is. So thank you for bringing that one up. Terry Ball, what happened to UFO? UFO, again, been in, because of its market cap, sometimes it will not make it into this group. So it's not that it's not a great project. UFO Gaming is one I own and I do like, and I continue to have faith in that project. Robert Salazar, Blocktopia. Woo, Blocktopia. Just a lot of competition, I think. Remember, you have all these metaverses that are essentially trying to make their play. And really, right now, with Microsoft and what they've just kind of dropped on the industry, I think a lot of people now understand just how serious the metaverse is going to become. The amount of developers that it's going to take to build on that level. And when you think about Blocktopia, they are trying to be the end-all, be-all. And that's the problem I've always had around Blocktopia. Not that it's a bad project. I think it's still one of the top, I would put it in the top 10. But it is one of those challenges. It's like some of these projects when you just take on too much, you'll never get enough done. And I think that's the big question with Blocktopia, is they need to move on. Sin City, all right, definitely, like I said, is coming out on CeFi, a big one that could be a huge. Debating on picking up another bag of Cardano or Gala. I have reopened up to Cardano. I bought some just this week. And remember, I sold my bag at pretty much the all-time high. And it was when Alonzo and Purple had first come out, and I was kind of repositioning just because I felt like it was going to be a slow burn for Cardano, and it was. But they have started to do some very interesting things here of late that has really kind of interested me in the fact that they've been able to kind of roll out, not necessarily on time, which I think a lot of projects are usually well behind schedule, what they try to do on roadmaps. But I'm very interested in what Charles is doing over there, and I continue to watch these because I never put a project like that to bed, but I definitely want to be watching it because in many cases for me, those are short-term holds. Now, should I own it long-term? Maybe, because at some point, there's going to be a point where you want to get into those layer ones and really kind of lock in and try to weather out the storm, and or kind of take a look at where, if we ever really see a bear market again. I think there's just so much action in the space. I'm not sure if we're going to see much on that. All right, David Porter, last question here. Thoughts on Sunday Swap launch tomorrow, supposedly? I know we had Sunday Swap's team on the show. Go back and check that video out because it was pretty interesting about what they were trying to do. He dropped a lot of information around their strategy and what their rollout was going to be. It was a little bit longer for them to roll this out. If they actually occur and we start to see a DEX really roll out on Cardano, once a DEX goes into play, things are going to get very interesting because at that point, because of the community, because of the numbers, and remember, Cardano just flipped Solana this week, we are going to see some hot action, I think. So Sunday Swap could be a big key here for that. We've seen a lot of different projects rolling into Cardano, including their metaverse play. So interesting stuff for sure. You guys, of course, are tuned in over on the podcast right now. Thanks for listening in over there. Make sure, if you didn't know, you can give us stars on Spotify. It's real easy. Just hit the star buttons. But the best place and the only place to come is right here on YouTube, because this is where we're going to do giveaways. We just did one this week. We gave $1,000 away in Cardano. If you guys missed that, sign up for the Diamond Circle. It's right below. Jump in, You get into that. We drop you a couple of emails a week of nothing but projects and things we're looking at, along with sentiment analysis that maybe we don't show here. And when we do our rewards giveaways, we look to the Diamond Circle members, and that's where we give it. So very easy to do. If you want to reach me, it's out on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.